Activists campaigning for the release of jailed refugee player Hakeem al-Araibi have called for global protests on Friday, the day of the AFC Asian Cup final, as the situation escalates to critical after Bahrain officially requested his extradition. Gulf Institute for Democracy and Human Rights (GIDHR) chose the most important day of Asian football's four-yearly calendar to maximize exposure to the plight of al-Araibi, a former Bahraini footballer who fled his country in 2014 after the Arab Spring and was granted asylum in Australia in 2017. GIDHR chairman Yahya al-Hadid has urged people from all over the world to hold gatherings at iconic venues in their cities, with Melbourne, Sydney, London and Berlin responding to the calls to protest al-Araibi's detention in Thai jail and possible extradition to Bahrain. A city in Canada is also set to join the protests, while organizers are waiting for word from Beirut, Dublin and Paris. "We are calling for the rallies to demand freedom for Hakeem al-Araibi and other prisoners of conscience, as well as to shed the light on the human rights violations," al-Hadid told the South China Morning Post. "The case is more complicated after Bahrain submitted the extradition papers. It seems that they won't give up on the case easily. They are fighting hard to get Hakeem extradited. The Bahraini authorities do not deal smoothly with the critical voices, especially if those voices targeted the royal family members or exposed the human rights abuses committed in the country. That's why they want Hakeem in the first place." FIFA's recent involvement and the letter of the Australian PM to the Thai PM, along with all the great efforts of the human rights and sports groups, give Hakeem more chances for freedom. "However, we remain cautious because we know Bahrain won't give up easily," said Hakeem. "Is AFC that inept and naive to think conflict of interest absolves Al Khalifa of his duty to detain Bahraini player?" London and Berlin came on board and joined the global campaign demanding freedom to Hakeem al-Araibi and all prisoners of conscience, said al-Hadid. "We are calling on the people out there to participate in the rallies. The Australian protests will be held at Federation Square in Melbourne and in front of the Opera House in Sydney, with both gatherings scheduled to start at 10:30 a.m. local time. The Berlin rally is at Brandenburg Gate at 3:30 p.m. local time, while the London location is yet to be confirmed. The 25-year-old al-Araibi has been a critic of the man presiding over Friday's Asian Cup final between Japan and Qatar in Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Salman bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa, a member of the Bahrain royal family who the player accuses of being involved in the crackdown of athletes during the Arab Spring. The Asian Cup is the AFC's showpiece event for national teams and, as AFC president, it is meant to symbolize the triumph of Al Khalifa's leadership. Paul Pogba train selfie story helps to spread word on Hakeem al-Araibi, with jailed refugee footballer losing hope. However, activists are hoping to ruin it for the AFC, who came under heavy criticism for ignoring al-Araibi's plight until Tuesday, when they finally called for his release. Al-Araibi, who has refugee status and plays for Pascoe Vale in Melbourne, went to Bangkok in late November for his honeymoon after Australian officials told him it was safe to travel. However, he was picked up on his arrival by Thai officials acting on an Interpol extradition red notice, which turned out to be invalid. Now, after more than 60 days in Bangkok remand prison, al-Araibi's case is reaching a critical stage, with the Bahrain government reportedly making an official request to Thailand to return him to the country, where he fears for his life. FIFA has already upgraded his status to emergency, and Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison this week broke his silence by demanding al-Araibi's release. Hollywood star Anthony LaPaglia asks Wolverine, Thor, Robin Hood and Harley Quinn to help free jailed footballer Hakeem. The jailed player has been convicted in Bahrain of vandalism, a charge he denies, and fears torture should he be returned. Craig Foster, a former Socceroos captain who has been the public face of the He visited him in prison in Bangkok, before flying to Europe to meet with officials of world governing body FIFA, IOC, Players Union, FIFPro and other top officials. In the meantime, world leaders, including Morrison and Jordan's Prince Ali, brother of King Abdullah, have joined NGOs, football personalities such as former England striker Gary Lineker and Hollywood stars in calling for his release. I'll be at Opera House protest, Friday to stand with you all. Calling on at Scott Morrison MP at Bill Shorten MP at Gladys Berejiklian to attend, tweeted Foster, referring the Prime Minister and other Australian politicians. We all need to demonstrate Australia's refusal to allow this injustice. We will not send anyone to die, really? Then don't deport refugee footballer Hakeem al-Araibi to Bahrain, activists tell Thailand.